I am your host of Undiscovered Gems. We have a great show for you today. Today we have Karen Turnquist. Karen is a licensed clinical social worker, founder of the clinical director at the Mindful State Therapy Services. That's a lot. And what does that mean? Well, I can tell you this. Karen works with trauma to the nervous system, and that is a serious discussion because we all go through it whether we know it or not. And she also deals with attachment with families and children. Now, a fun fact about Karen is that she's an outdoors person. She loves to cycle and she loves to hike. Karen, Professional of the Year, welcome to the show of Undiscovered Gems.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
Glad you made it. Now, Karen, you're down at Disney with your daughter and you stopped to do this interview. We are so happy to have you, and we have to make it a great interview so you can go back and have some fun.
Yeah, and she is at the arcade, so I don't that. I give her 20 and she's like, oh boy, I wanted to play there.
Nice. Yeah. Well, Karen, why don't you first tell us, how did you get into this business? How did you, in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I've been a therapist for over 20 years, and I want to talk about mindful state. I've always believed that healing happens best in the context of safe, genuine relationships. And throughout my career, I saw so many people who needed just specialized care. I was working at a county clinic. Anyone comes in the door, you have to treat, right? I'd see children, families, trauma survivors, older people, younger people, people with babies they didn't know how to take care of. I was at the VA. I treated veterans over the years, and really often had to travel long distances or wait months to receive it. A lot of people had gaps in care. And I just wanted to change that. And I could see the same patterns happening with people. And so founding Mindful State Therapy Services was never just about opening a private practice. It was about creating a place where people could find hope, where other clinicians that I'm now hiring could continue to grow professionally, and where evidence-based care and compassion exist side by side. And we're very huge value for that quality.
Wow. What caught my attention, and I'm eager to talk to you about this, is your ability to work with people who have trauma to their nervous system.
Yeah.
And I just believe that no matter how small, critical, whatever it is, that I think we go through life and that happens. It doesn't get addressed. It doesn't get treated. I think we all as human beings go through that to a certain extent. Am I right or wrong?
Everyone does.
Right.
Stuff happens.
And that's why I'm so intrigued to talk to you about it, because for me or anybody else, I never got treated for, I know I felt it. I know I felt something and I didn't like it, but you don't get treated for it. So my first question is, what exactly is that? What happens to the nervous system? Why do we say trauma to the nervous system?
Because our body keeps the score. Van der Kolk wrote beautiful book on that. Gabriel Mate. I mean, there's so much good information nowadays that we can look at from the research. And our body and organs and nervous system as a living self, if you think of it that way, encoded with the brain through the body, it stores the stuff that happens to us too. And so we have a cognitive view on, oh, these events happened, but then it goes deeper, sinking into somatic messages, physical messages, feelings, and the event. And it can really run quite deep, especially when you see people have maybe since childhood the same patterns occur. And that needs to be treated a particular way to help people really get that. I always call it like a rewiring of the nervous system, so that they can have a chance at, or any of us really as humans can then have a chance at, okay, wait a minute, now I have a clean slate, I have a fresh start.
Now, is it something that we as human beings can do to ourselves and that happens? Or is it always an event, a person, or someone triggering that and making that happen?
Well, get a little more specific for me.
So what I'm saying is that when the normal thing is that I've experienced something with my parents or with a friend or an event, and it traumatized me. But then I'm also saying, is there any way as we go through our life where that can happen and no one else is involved? No, no experience. It's just we're living and it happens to us internally.
Well, what you're sounds like you're talking about is possibly epigenetics, and that's very interesting. Where there's research and evidence about how past experiences, say a big famine from generations ago, encodes at a cellular level and can shift and change like
Hmm.
cellular level and then get passed on through generations.
Oh, okay.
Very powerful. And these are all things that you can affect with deep trauma work, which would go really deep somatically and help people overcome. And that would be really interesting, right? Like someone could feel off and just like, or I don't know why.
Right. What is it?
Yeah. And like there is a reason. It's just, might be a deeper encoding.
Right. Well, let's bring it more to the surface on what the norm is for something like this. Now, when somebody experiences a shock to their system, what actually happens to the system?
Usually people often, I think, experience like from my client perspective and for me as a human, people often have this event that occurs and they're like, whoa, this boyfriend, a husband, a friend, or work event, or I don't know, even like a tornado or hurricane or something. And that event feels really intense. And then it can kick up memories of other things. And it can be like I would call it a flooding,
Mm.
like a doorway opening. And then depending on how we experience the event will determine if it's, because not every trauma is PTSD. Trauma is how we experience something and how it encodes and how it affects us. It doesn't have to turn
Hmm.
into PTSD. I just
Hmm.
want to say that out loud to everyone.
Right.
But we could still treat it, right? Because it's something that hurt us and we experienced. And
Mm.
so we have a cognitive belief of what occurred and how it affected us financially, maybe, or a house, or losing things, or a loved one, or something.
Sure.
And then we have thoughts about it. And then we have feelings about it. We feel it in our body a certain way.
Right.
And it can run even deeper to these core beliefs and feelings that we have, both somatically and cognitively. Am I worthless? Am I unlovable? I am, these intense thoughts that we've all had, right? Like if we've gone through something intense.
Hmm. Sure.
And it lives in the body and in our mind in that way. And a
Hmm.
lot of people are walking around trying to overcome these things.
Right. Now, with you being the professional that you are, how when somebody walks into your office, what could they expect? You already know, I mean, you go through an intake or whatever, and you know what their situation is. Now you're meeting them and you're about to work with them. How do you go about it?
Yeah, it starts at hello. And I do believe, like I said earlier, people need to feel safe in order to heal. And so it starts with safety and attachment. And where that starts is someone feeling safe and nurtured in my office. So things like a cup of coffee, tea, water. I feed people, especially kids, but adults too. The office is set up so cozy. And I'm not here to show you, or else because I'm at Disney. But you've got a really cozy space where people feel immediately held. Then you have a
Hmm.
good conversation. Now,
Right.
I do this like the back of my hand now, but it's similar to this conversation. It's a solution
Right.
based conversation that's designed for helping elicit information, but not letting the person go past their nervous system tolerance.
Right.
Safe. And that leads to fancy term here is, full informed consent on, hey, I hear you saying these things. And this is what I wonder about. And this is what I think. What do you think?
Hmm.
What do you most want? And then forming a treatment plan, which is usually centered around evidence based practice, but it doesn't have to be stuffy. I mean, we want to feel safe. And our brain tends to think in symbolism and metaphor and story. We're
Hmm.
wired for that. We're wired for connection. And so there's a lot of really creative ways to help people then do the work.
Hmm.
at that point on, I always say an assessment takes 3 to 5 sessions just to
I
get
see.
someone comfortable and coming in and
Mhm.
finishing the full story, right, about what's going
Mhm.
on, getting to know how their brain works, how it processes, what metaphor comes up for them, and then
Right.
you get really creative on helping and healing.
So when you're addressing the trauma, and you've gone through what you just
Mhm.
stated, part of the healing, does the person have to necessarily deal with, say, the person that caused the trauma? Does the person have to go back to that experience and do you have to help them refilter what happened? It wasn't your fault, kind of thing. Do they have to go back to the trauma in any way as a part of the healing process?
I use EMDR quite a bit, and internal family systems, and both of those practices, we prepare someone to face the event, but we do it in
Mm-hmm.
a very special way so that it deactivates and it doesn't hurt them anymore.
Ah.
So to answer your question, yes, but there's a very particular way you do it because you prepare someone, you go in a very particular order using a protocol, and then they're feeling better. And in fact, facing it on purpose, being prepared for it is much better than a flashback that
Hmm.
surprises you out of nowhere. And you're like, oh, now I'm unhinged for whatever time it is. And I always let people know that
Excuse me.
we're preparing and we have a very particular way we do it so that they feel better afterwards.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Now let's move toward the attachment. Family and children. You work with attachment. What exactly is that?
It's that deep sense of connection and how we connect with others and see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's encoded in the nervous system. We learn this 0 to 10. Honestly, 0 to 3 is a crucial age for that. And then when we hit 10 years old, we've got the sense of our personality, how we see the world, how we see others. And it's then how we interact with others, the world, and ourselves internally. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's important to mention because if we have struggle with others, we probably have a struggle internally too in some way. And so then there's a self attachment that needs to heal simultaneously as well. And I work with all ages, like kids, families, adults, because
Sure.
attachment is often one of the first things you're working on. And it becomes part of the trauma work.
Right. Now, I believe there are all sorts of within the attachments. There's all sorts of types of attachments that impact and affect people in so many different ways. It's broad.
Yeah.
One thing I want to approach in uh, today's society with social media and everything is you got the attachment to the device.
Yes.
And that is a big deal because I go to restaurants, you go to restaurants,
Oh,
and you
yes.
see families sitting there and they're all on their phones and they
I've
can go
seen
through the
it,
whole meal.
I see it at Disney. They're
Yes,
all in the app instead of in the experience. Oh, absolutely.
exactly. Now that device is a problem. It's a problem in so many different ways. Do you deal and parents are giving their kids at, like you said, 0 to 3? Parents are giving their kids these devices at 1 years old.
Oh,
And you could see them as they're traveling, they just give them the device and let them be quiet.
yeah.
So how do you address that and what is happening with that in today's society?
That's a layered question, right? And I think a lot of professionals and other people might have their own views and evidence opinions, but I see it as a form of disassociation from.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, people. I always think of it like this: we all have a fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn response. So that's a nervous system response. A lot of
Right.
people have heard about this by now. And so, if I'm feeling any way, sort of, me and my daughter would call it a little whatever, but we use that word a lot. And if we're feeling a little off, right? I think people often want to escape in some way.
Mm.
And technically, the screens, the blue lights, whatever we're looking at, the content, maybe it's stimulating and flashy, or we're scrolling, we're going to get dopamine hits.
Right.
help it. The brain that is the nervous system doesn't know the difference. It's just gonna you're getting these hits, and so then it becomes like an addiction of sorts,
Right.
unfortunately. And that can be the true for food, alcohol, drugs, phones, TV. I mean, insert here. If I'm getting that kind of reinforcement and then I keep doing it and I can't stop or I can't be present, then there's something going on there. And I always wonder about the nervous system.
Yeah,
Or,
and it
or,
is.
or boredom. Boredom is another thing. If I can't tolerate present moment awareness in some way, even if I'm bored, and so I have to do something to get stimulation, that becomes a layered issue too for people.
Right. And you just mentioned it's like an addiction.
Yeah.
I've seen the social media clips of parents taking a device away from a kid, ages, 1 to 12, and they just go ballistic. They just cannot handle not having it because it literally is a part of them somehow. It became a part of them and they're lost without it. Kids can't, a lot of kids like that can't sit in silence. They just can't sit and think. It's really bad. But let's talk about some of the other types of attachments. Like you got the helicopter parents. The parents that hover over the kids, and then the kids become so attached to that they don't function well uh, in life. They're missing a lot of things because somebody was always telling them what to do, always over them, and you see it in the workplace today when kids are putting their resumes in looking for jobs. You can tell independence is not a strength of theirs. Devices, parents. Do you see that often?
I see it. I mean, really, like kids and all of us are a product of, well, we can do our own work, right? Like I've done my own work, I've overcome my own trauma list. And I know that when I was growing up, you co-regulate with your caregivers and your environment. So what we're talking about is that co-regulation as to whatever it is that we have to
Mm-hmm.
regulate to, because kids are beholden to the nervous systems of the environment and the adults around them.
Mm.
So then I'm going to grow up, and then hopefully at some point, if it was level of toxic or problematic, hopefully at some point I can go get the help I need. If I wasn't able to get it when I was 0 to 18, a lot of people go in as young adults, they go in as older adults and get the help they need. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it's a co-regulation, and how is a parent regulating? So for example, with my daughter, she is diabetic, actually, type 1. So she had to have
Mm-hmm.
a device when she was 2. And I was,
Mm.
oh my gosh, no way. But it was life-saving because it was all the diabetic equipment. And so I had to teach her early on, like, honey, this is medical equipment. This is not a toy and a phone. And we're not doing, watching this all the time.
Right.
Well, it's a huge, because she had it so little, right? And so then you're regulating. And then that means that I have to be present because she's, I don't know, is going to need something. She's 4, she's 3, she's 5. Every generation, she's going to need something. And I'm either going to go to, okay, look at your phone, or I'm going to manage it and be present, even if I'm inconvenienced with something else. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
and to be fair to the adults, they're struggling with stuff they're struggling with. And so it
Mm-hmm.
becomes this shared nervous system that tweaks down until
Mm-hmm.
everyone gets the healing they need.
Right. Right. Is there any synergistic or a common uh, thing that you see in attachment in your practice that you're treating most of the time?
I've been seeing a lot of, well, with kids, it's common. A lot of people come to me now for PTSD in particular, but I'm known for that in my area now. So a lot of people will come, oh, go see Karen. I have noticed a streak with women and men actually
Mm.
becoming really dissatisfied in their relationships because of personality and attachment, and then having to sort of work on awakening, and then trying to awaken together and working in couples and trying to help them both thrive. That's been an interesting streak in the last couple of years. I think people are searching for something and they're
Mm.
trying to find it and they're trying to find their sense of self. And that's something I would say is the biggest thing I've noticed.
Right, right. And whether it's attachment, whether it's trauma, you mentioned the term a couple times of regulate.
Yeah.
What you just said as far as relationships go, you find that either person in the relationship is trying to regulate their nervous system because of tough things that are going on in the relationship. It could be a lot of different things. It could be cheating. It could be suspicion. It could be uh,
Yeah.
somebody's overweight and you can't. There could be so many different things.
Yeah.
How do you regulate the nervous system in those, and even in attachment? Just how do you regulate that?
With couples or with an individual? Because
Okay, we'll go with couples first. We'll go with couples first.
I have to do a really good assessment of each party. And then, okay, what are your goals together? Usually, what I find is each person has their own trauma list. And often there's something that I've learned to do from a lot of my mentors. One like Ricky Greenwald, that I've learned so much from him over the years, is there's a really nice way to use an EMDR assessment to help the couple understand, wait a minute, this is where I go. A common argument, right, that you'd have over and over,
Hmm.
and then helping each party understand, wait a minute, this is where I go every time we go to this argument. My brain goes here, and then I react this way. And then helping the other one, oh wow, my brain goes here, I react this way, and helping them almost see their nervous systems and what happens, so that there can create a compassion around that. It's
Ah,
not condoning it. It's saying, okay, we're going to change this, but let's have compassion for each other and then move forward. And that's something that I think is a good start.
right, right. So it's just, what you just said is something like when someone's triggered and it goes toward the other person. So if the other person goes on the defense, that's part of your nervous system also.
Yeah, flight responses. We go
Ah,
back,
got it.
typically it goes back to 0 to 10. Very,
Ah.
yes. So but I'm 50, say, and then I'm, with my spouse and I'm, going back to 7 because of this thing happening. And then I react a certain way. They
Ah,
don't know. They don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. And so helping people recognize that. And then it leads to good work, because usually you're then helping them both resolve a trauma list over time if they want to. And then it leads to beautiful work if they're both willing to put the time in.
I'm gonna throw something at you that is uniquely different. I'm gonna bring from my sports background.
Yeah.
I think all athletes experience trauma.
Hmm.
All athletes, and I mean critical trauma.
Yeah.
Coaches, players, games, plays, practice. It happens all the time. And our defense is to address the trauma harder than it came at us. It's just, that's how your mind
Yeah.
increases the deal, because it's all trauma. You have to be able to deal with trauma, and you get better at it by facing it immediately and punching it right back, and then feeling good about it, and it comes again, and that's the career. Um, and when I hear today, the nuance is mental health. I didn't have that during my career. It only came up over the last 3 years or so. Mental health. I need a day off for mental health. That never happened before. Can
Yeah.
you try to help me or help the audience understand what I just explained was sports I'll say in the past,
Yep.
but now people need a day of mental health. It's too much. It's too much pressure. They're feeling the trauma. They have to address the trauma. How does that happen? What the change that took place?
I think that more and more, what I would say is we're recognizing the importance of working within our tolerance, our nervous system tolerance.
Okay.
Yes. And, it's very interesting because I wish I had this chart with me I could pull out, because it's so, when we're in a fight or flight response, it feels like veterans talk about this a lot because they're in war or they're like in this training, and
Right, right.
they like, well, I've got to be ready, and that feels like you're so powerful with the adrenaline and everything. and it feels like you could overcome anything, right? And I think
Right.
in power of sports, because I've treated athletes, and yet it's like seeing the forest for the trees. That's the difference. If I'm in that state of vigilance and it seems like I'm ready for anything, I'm only seeing this much, and I'm working past my nervous system tolerance. But if I bring it down into a regulatory state, I can see the entire forest and I can respond quicker in my tolerance. It's counterintuitive, but very true. And I'm then I'm going to perform better.
I love that. I
But
love
it's
that.
scary.
Yeah.
You're used to one way because it feels different and you have to get used to it.
Yeah. One thing that you got me with when you said you have to have your tolerance. Everybody's tolerance is different.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is key in sports. Everybody has a different tolerance. So that's one thing that I get it. That makes total sense. Now, what you said as far as regulating that, if you're, and I'm going to just say, if you're calmer and you have a control over your nervous system, then you can see everything.
Better.
If you're so tight and focused and you're focused on this one point that you got to get through, you can get through to one point, but you can also get through that and more if it's regulated. Is that what you're saying?
In the movie Goat, do you remember the character? I love stories. So remember the character, and that character was so focused on, I've got to win this cup for the town and for me. And the focus was so narrow. She pushed past her tolerance and hurt herself. I don't know if everyone remembers the movie. It's such a good movie for this. And yet it was in the end with Goat and her and the team. No, she had to step back and see, wait a minute, like I've got to see your talent, my talent.
Right.
Put it together. And then they all blew it up and they won. And it was an effort around them. And I think a lot of us, we all have hard times like that, right? Or we feel like it's all on us in some way. But being able to pull back is scary too. And so we have to help people get used to that feeling again, or for the first time ever, if we've never felt calm or never felt regulated, that's a different feeling. And so it takes time, but we will perform better.
Wow. Yeah. Karen, you're really skilled at what you do. This interview can go on and on and on because I have so many questions, but we're slowly coming to a close, and this is not for me, it's for the audience, and I got to remember that because you touched on a lot of great things. But what would you like the audience to go away with? Give them, a couple nuggets from you, some gems from you, based on our conversation that they should think about if they're experiencing anything of what we talked about.
Anyone can heal. It's never too late. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. My oldest client in the VA was in his 80s, did his whole trauma list. My youngest one was infant. And I think that's the biggest thing is healing can happen no matter what. And when you're ready, and you can find, it's never too late. And I think that's a lot. I think a lot of people sometimes feel like it's too late, and it's never too late. And I think that's what we have time for now. I would say that just, finding the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And starting from hello, and it's not too late.
So healing is never too late.
Yes.
Yeah. And we can expect, what can we expect if you're 70 years old and you've been carrying something for a long time? What could they expect by addressing it at that point in time in their life?
People tell me they feel vitality again. They feel themselves again. They feel life again. They feel free and at peace.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
And they tell me, Karen, it's priceless. And that's the common messages I get. And then they actually thrive. And it's gorgeous to see and hear about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Karen, thank you for coming on the show. You have dropped so many undiscovered gems that the audience can take from. You are definitely a professional of the year. And you intrigued me with the sports stuff. I got to say that. It just, you educated me on something that I just didn't know how that was. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here for our audience. Karen Turnquist, Professional of the Year. Definitely one of the best on Undiscovered Gems. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Karen.